Thanks, Brenna. It's so great to have you here. You came all the way from Oregon in the US, so thank you. And tell us a bit about yourself and the company you represent.
Sure. Yeah, I came all the way from Portland, Oregon, which is being declared a war zone by our president. But I'll tell you, the biggest war is between the kombucha shops, the drum circles, and who has the best craft beer. So I'm really happy to be here. I was interested in steward ownership and kind of the business and the environment since I was very young. I used to run in the forests of the Pacific Northwest near Seattle, where I grew up, and I watched a forest getting torn down for a housing development, and since then I've been really curious about this intersection between business and the environment. And I've been on a quest to figure out why businesses make the decisions they make that harm the environment. And so since then, I've worked in 7 different industries doing sustainable business, from $20 million companies up to $200 billion multinationals, trying to decode this. And as I went along, I realized the issue really is about governance. I had thought, maybe it's my supervisor, maybe it's the vice president, maybe it's the CEO. Nope, it's the board. So when I had the opportunity to come and lead Organically Grown Company, it was a really exciting thing for me. I've been there as a CEO for 4 years, and as you said, we're the nation's one of the first perpetual purpose trust-owned companies in the US. We're around $200 million. We have about 400 employees. We serve the West Coast of the US, delivering fresh fruits and vegetables and other products to mostly independent retailers like co-ops. And I grew up going to a co-op with my mom who wore bell-bottoms, and I remember it very well.
Very cool. Can you maybe take us a bit on OGC's ownership journey? So what led OGC to realizing that, well, maybe the ownership structure they were in didn't really fit, and what led to Steward-Ownership?
Yeah, OGC started as a co-op in 1978, and it was founded by a counterculture group in Eugene, Oregon. And you think of like hippies and earth mamas and rock and roll freaks. Those were the people that founded OGC. They were all farmers, and they wanted to get together. They realized they were competing against each other at the co-ops, and so they wanted to work together to plan, harvest, and sort of deliver products. Since then, OGC has moved from a co-op to a C Corp to an ESOP. And where our story begins for the Perpetual Purpose Trust is that we were an ESOP, and our valuation...
Just maybe an ESOP is...
Am I going ahead?
Yeah, no, that's fine, but maybe explain... Yeah, can you just say the words? What
ESOP is an employee-owned company. Yeah. And it's a form of steward ownership, as folks may know. But in the US, it's highly regulated, and you have to be valued every few years so that the stock is valued appropriately for the employees. Well, we learned, having these founders that started in 1978, you can imagine our valuation years into it, and we had people that were getting into their 70s, and wanting to retire, wanting to exit. They loved the mission. They didn't want to sell to a big conglomerate or a big produce company that would erode the mission. So they had to figure a way out. And we found this obscure, to us, model of ownership, which was a perpetual purpose trust, that enabled us to exit the ESOP. And it was not an easy journey, as you know.
I can imagine, yeah.
When we walked into these, looking for financing, we walked through the doors of many banks and many investors, and the door was just shut in our face because they were like, what is this model? We tried to find a trustee. We couldn't find a trustee. The deal almost didn't happen because of that. And ultimately, our vice president of finance stepped in to be the trustee for 6 months in order for it to happen. So it was really a hero's journey. And we had a lot of friends along the way, including Purpose. And so we're really grateful for that.
Yeah, really cool. So maybe if I understand it correctly, on a very basic level, OGC is now 100% owned by a perpetual purpose trust, which is quite similar to a lot of the single foundation models that we have in Europe, where 100% of the voting rights remain in that trust. But you also have investors that have no voting shares, but do receive dividends.
Yes, we financed our transition through $10 million of a loan, and then also by taking on preferred shareholders that are non-voting. And so what we have in our structure is that we're owned by a trust that exists to advance sustainable food systems. Our trust is governed by a trust protector committee that hires the board. And there's even a grievance committee, the trust enforcer, that in case there's some kind of problem where they're not, we're not meeting our purpose, they can come back in and take care of it. So it's a structure that's very solid. But the one thing about ours that's different than many others is that our stakeholders elect our trust protector committee. So it is really, democracy is still alive in Portland. And they do vote for the trust protector committee.
Yeah. So if you speak about stakeholders, what does that mean? Like, which stakeholder groups are you involving?
We have 5 stakeholder groups. It's in. Hopefully I remember them all right now.
I can help maybe.
We have investors, coworkers, community, growers, and customers that are stakeholders. So as long as you're involved with us, you can apply to be a qualified stakeholder. We approve everyone that's involved, really. Okay. And then, you can vote.
Yeah. And how does that work? Because it's quite a diverse set of people, and I mean, they are the steward owners in a sense of organically grown company. At least they have the voting rights to then get the board together. So how do you ensure that they actually use that power they have over the company from stewardship, from a sense of stewardship and really responsibility for the company? How does that work?
Yeah, we work really hard to engage our stakeholders. We have quarterly reports that go out to them that are unique to them about what we've been doing related to our purpose. We also have stakeholder gatherings where we bring them together to talk about our purpose. And my new thing is that I have little gifts when they vote. I'm sending them gifts. So we're finding ways to get them engaged. But our coworkers in particular are very engaged. They're the highest number of qualified stakeholders that are voting. And we also give them training, and I give kind of a presentation on the structure and help them to feel engaged. But I will tell you that we have a very low turnover in an industry that usually has a high turnover, and that's because they feel engaged. They know that they're part of it, that they understand the purpose, which is to advance sustainable food systems, which we really need in the United States. If you don't know about all the consolidation of food in the U.S., it's scary. And so this is a really important thing, and so we try to connect that every single day.
Yeah. It's really cool. I think kind of the combination of steward ownership with such a multi-stakeholder governance is quite unique. I don't think there are many companies that are doing this, and it's really cool. What does we talked a bit about in our preparation about the legal model being something that's usually in the foreground of all the discussions that you have. Like, it's very lawyerish stuff, I think. Yeah. But I mean, obviously there's so much behind it. So what does it mean for OGC to be in the steward ownership structure? What does it mean for you personally, for the employees you talk to?
Yeah, well, as you know, most companies are sort of ruled by this quarterly creation of shareholder value. And in the US, you can be sued as a board if you're not creating shareholder value. B Corp solves some of that, but not all of it. And so for us, we're able to not just think quarter by quarter, we're able to think over the long-term arc of where we want to head. And that makes a lot of sense for an agricultural company, having that long view. The other thing is that we can put people first. Which is a wonderful thing, and we are always talking about on our leadership team how, is this best for coworkers? How do we help our coworkers? How do we help our growers? So we really, really think about that. The other thing is that we are really embedding sustainability and purpose into everything we do. Yeah. We have a profit waterfall. So the profit that we make first goes to pay for what we need in terms of paying off debt and for what the company needs in terms of reinvestment. Then it goes to a dividend, pays the dividend. Then 20% of those profits go directly to coworkers, and people are paid based on tenure, not on title. So I make the same bonus as someone who's been there the same amount of time. And then we have a perk dividend for shareholders. And then all the rest of the money goes out to stakeholders. And we have a committee of coworkers that decides how that works. and it goes to like all those five groups receive the benefit of the profits that we make. So it really is a full circle design. It is a system, a feedback system, and it's exciting to be a part of.
Yeah, cool. So what's next for OGC? What are currently the topics that are moving you, that are on top of your mind?
There's a few things that we're thinking a lot about. First is growth. How do you grow in a way that's sustainable and isn't, I think of capitalism as sometimes this hungry ghost that just keeps eating resources. So how do we grow in a way that's sustainable? So we're thinking a lot about that, and we've expanded into Northern California recently. We've also done some vertical integration in our supply chain. So we purchased a really iconic citrus farm in California, which is a first for us, which has been exciting. The other thing is we're just keeping an eye on what's happening on the ground and the political environment that's happening in the US. It's getting harder and harder to look at some of these things when you worry about your coworkers, you worry about the folks that are harvesting the food that are in the fields, you worry about so many different things. So we're keeping our city potentially being militarized. So all these things are kind of operating in the background for us. But I think ultimately we've been really also committed to doubling down on this model, and we helped to found the Perpetual Trust Ownership Network in the US. Now there's more than, is that 140 companies, 150 companies in the US that have followed suit since we transitioned to a perpetual purpose trust, including Patagonia. So we feel really excited that we've been able to prove that we can make money and we can do this, and we have a solid balance sheet, and we have a really bright future.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely a trailblazer for the steward-ownership model in the US, definitely. All right, I think we can move on maybe to some questions from the audience, if there are any. Oh yeah, I just see two in the middle here. Maybe we go with you first, if there's a microphone coming. Yes.
Yeah, hi, my name is Klaus, I'm from Belgium. Thanks for sharing this journey you've done, from a cooperative to a B Corp to a ESAP to a steward ownership. Coming myself from the cooperative movement, from a number of generations, and I know that cooperatives, they have this part on democratic governance and all that, but when you look into the management, it's been actually quite hierarchical. I would like to understand, because you talk about leadership, how has that evolved over it? Because I'm having a discussion on it, I think steward ownership has a link also how you actually manage a company and give up some of that ownership power. Coming from Belgium, we have Frédéric Laloux, who has written a lot about, and I have someone here who's actually radically testing it. So I would like to understand a bit more your journey on that, on empowering your people and creating this ecosystem between your different stakeholders.
Yeah, well, one of the things I was told when I joined OGC coming out of a co-op was that we're very different. We're very collaborative. And so at OGC, the way we make decisions is really engaging coworkers sort of every step along the way. So when we developed our strategic plan, we vetted it with them. We got their input before we developed it. We sent it back to coworkers and said, do we have the right, are we on the right track? We also have coworkers on almost every committee. So we have coworkers on our nomination committee, we have coworkers on the trust protector committee, and we have coworkers on the trust enforcer committee, and we have coworkers on the board. So it is really integrated in how we approach things. It isn't the manage yourself model, which I know is also a really strong movement, but I would say it is a quite strong spirit of sort of collaboration in our company. Thank you for asking.
There's one over there as well, a question. Where are the microphones? Up here in the front.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Paul, I'm from the Netherlands. I have two quite practical questions. You said you had 5 stakeholders in your Trust Protector Committee, investors, co-workers, communities, and growers, but I missed the 5th one. You were going pretty fast.
Oh, sorry, I should have slowed down. I apologize.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah,
that's why I'm asking.
It's my first language, I should have slowed down. So it is our investors,
yes,
our growers. Am I testing your note-taking? The growers. We're testing my memory. Okay, sorry. Investors, coworkers, growers, retailers, so our customers, and then
community,
our
I think.
community.
Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Okay, so I missed
Everybody gets a gold star for that.
Yeah, I
A
missed
plus.
retailers, but I can easily. So the second question is, I can easily imagine how investors and also co-workers and growers and also retailers choose their representative in the board, because you can just put them together in a room and start an election or something. But how does it work for community? Who is the entity, and how do you define community in your situation?
Yeah, that's a great question. We don't have a representative board, so there isn't a seat for each of those groups. It's a overall board. They do have election rights for the Trust Protector Committee. But the way we involve each of those groups is that if you're part of the community, which is like our food bank that we give to, the organic nonprofits that we're involved in, the human rights groups that we're engaged in, someone from their organization can apply to be a representative, and they decide who that is, and then they apply, and then we approve. We just approve, pretty much. So,
Amazing. Thank you very much.
yeah, thank you. Great question. Great note-taking. Thank you.
There's one more question over here in the front. Sorry, I see the people in the front better. If you have to wave a lot when you're in the back. Okay.
My name's Andre. We run a regenerative investing firm, and we believe a lot in sharing the value and the rewards with all the co-creators. A lot, as you described, and I really resonated strongly. The one co-creator slash stakeholder that you didn't mention explicitly, I'm sure it's embedded, and I just want to understand how, is Mother Earth, the natural environment. How is that represented in those discussions?
Yeah, it's interesting. The newer perpetual purpose trusts, many of them have a seat on their board for nature. When we developed it, we didn't include that, but it is very integrated into we have a list of 10 additional purposes that we have that we're working towards. It's purpose and principles. And in those principles is working on climate change, reducing toxicity, improving soil health. So those are all things that we measure ourselves against. And we're also, we have a sustainability person that works on that with us. We have a sustainability committee with coworkers that are working on that. And so we also report to B Corp, BIA reporting to share how we're doing for the earth and the community. So it is very integrated into what we do.
Mm-hmm. All right, last question up there. I saw someone waving very hard.
Wait,
yes.
who is that? Oh, I see them.
Very much. My name is Petra from the Netherlands as well. And we have a B Corps corporation, and I heard you mention that B Corps was not grasping it all for you. So can you explain what you miss in the B Corps way of working?
Yeah, I've been involved with B Corps for many years now. There is currently a debate about B Corp, and it's particularly around two things. One is supply chain. So B Corp at times, well, evidently, can ignore the supply chain. So you can have a great office, but your supply chain is destroying the rainforest, and totally cool. And then the other piece about it is say you were a benefit corp, and you had two offers from a company that wanted to buy you. One was an offer that was maybe slightly higher and was a company that was going to do what they did with Ben & Jerry's, buy your company, extract value from it, reduce the ingredient standards, keep the halo, and just say it's all great, and mute the owners. And in that case, you have to consider the stakeholders. You don't have to necessarily put them ahead of in your decision. So your decision doesn't have necessarily be what's best for them. And so that's really been the big rub, is that although it's great and there have been a lot of good things coming out of B Corp, you just have to consider. But in our case, we're a perpetual purpose trust, and so we have to actually deliver on our purpose on a regular basis, and it's what we have to do.
Yeah. Great, Brenna, thank you so much. Thanks all of you for your questions as well.
Thank you, great to see you.
Great to see you too.